Wayne, you had a heart attack, left your body, traveled through a tunnel of angels, and came face to face with Jesus himself. So, Wayne, tell me more. What happened?
Well, I think that's a huge, impactful way to do it. But I think ultimately what happened is I met the creator of everything face to face. I experienced in the smallest way possible, but in the most dramatic way possible, the infinite love of Jesus. And but I think before we get into that, I need to show you the other side of that coin, because where that all came from, my searching, and how far away from God I really was when all this started, and how it led me here. Is that okay? Can
Absolutely.
I do that?
Please do. Yes.
When now I was young, but I was an adult. I was married to my wife Denise at the time, and we had two young children. During the course of that, I actually was deep into New Age. Now, and I actually hate saying it now, because looking back on it, it just makes you realize, just like the Apostle Paul says, "Oh, wretched man that I am." And I look back now and I say that even now, "Oh, wretched man that I am," because I think when you're lost, you really don't know how lost you really are. But one thing that actually always stuck with me, and I never kind of understood that, I always believed in God. There was something way down in here that always knew there is a God. And part of that, actually, I have to tell you, is a bit of pride, because I'm going like, well, I'm not that idiotic, that kind of thing. So I was going like, those guys who don't think there's a God, they're the ones that are in trouble. But the real actual fact is, that's the one thing that kept me going. I was looking in under every rock and behind every picture frame. And that's really, I'm going like, and I had this one thought: if I ever was able to meet this God, I hear lots of things about how God loves you, whatever that means, but if I ever meet this God, and he's supposed to be a personal being, then I want to do that. And if I do, I will follow this God all of my life. I will do that. I mean, who wouldn't, right? Or at least that was my thought process at the time. Now, I went through everything: crystals, the aliens, of which we got that alien deception that's on the horizon, right? There's lots of that. And then ultimately, I ended up coming around to a point where my wife, who was saved, but she had walked away from the Lord. That's how we got together. And just as an aside, that I'll tell you this is how God works. And knowing that if you belong to God, you are never going to be able to be taken out of his hand. He's got a plan for you. When I was deep into this, I ended up having an event that occurred where I saw Denise. She did not see me. I saw her. And it's the first time I actually heard the voice of God. Now, I didn't know who or what this was, but there was a voice that told me deep inside of me, she's going to be your wife. And I knew it was true. Now, it shocked me in how that happened, but it actually did happen. And as it turned out, she did become my wife. And I actually never even told her about that. I think probably about that whole situation, probably after a couple of years after we were married, because I I thought, man, that's kind of weird. That must have been me. I must have been really, she was a good looker, and which she really was. But I'm thinking, like, I'm not so sure I want to say anything about that. But that is truly what happened. Now, as I look back about on that now, it was God. There was no question in my mind that that was God, but I didn't know him then. So anyway, let me jump forward now and be able to talk about what happened so quickly. We had gotten our children; they were young. Our daughter was about 3 at the time, and our son was he was 8. We got to the stage that we were wanting to be able to have them determine some type of spiritual knowledge, right? We wanted to be able to do that. And what ended up happening is in this providence that we have from God, we ended up finding a church because we thought Vacation Bible School. I remember that when I was a kid. That seems like that would be a good thing for them. And then ultimately, we find a church that ultimately has a pastor that was Denise's pastor when she was a kid, when she was saved. Wow. I'm thinking like, oh, that's a coincidence, isn't it? No. But so we move forward. There was a lot that happened, and you can see it on other interviews that I've had and that sort of thing. It's long and involved. But ultimately, I ended up going to this church to be able to glean information, find out about this Jesus person. And I'm not so sure, And but if that's what I was thinking to myself. And in this one instance where this all came down, I ended up getting chicken pox super bad. Second time in my life. It was horrendous. It was really bad. But I ended up going to the church, was miraculously healed, filled with the Holy Spirit. It was absolutely stunningly amazing. I left this place. I was speaking with God. It lasted for over 4 hours. I was someplace else. And I didn't even realize it. It was, again, another long story, but that was it for me. That I was done. I was cooked, as we say, but I belonged to him at that moment, and he told me so. So that was the moment that this happened, but this was also a turning point. I was told by the pastor's wife, actually, after this. The church was just absolutely amazed. And they ended up, of course, after several hours, the rest of the church had cleaned out. But I wasn't aware of that at the time. I had to I was feeling these waves of love, Vladimir, just pouring over me like this ocean of emotion that I had never felt in my life. And I did not want that to stop. Little did I know that was only a taste of what was to come, but it was stunning to me. It's like when you find something that you've been told about, you've always been told it existed, but now this is real, right? And so that's the way I was approaching this. Yes, not only was it real, it was life altering real. And so the pastor's wife along with my wife, they were both in tears. It just, they had never expected a transformation like that. Of course, neither did I, but hey, it wasn't my calling. I mean, my choice, it was God's choice, right? But she told me something that really kind of set the stage for this. She said that was so amazing, Wayne. You have been so blessed, but you have to be careful now. And I'm still, of course, going through all of this, and I'm just like, why? She says the enemy is going to want to take what you just got, and you need to be very careful. And I just, I was still lost in these waves of emotion, and excuse me. But I said, okay. I couldn't even drive home. The Holy Spirit was so strong on me. I needed help to walk. It was that strong. Wow. It was just amazing. But 7 days later from that point, I died. I found out exactly what she meant. And what the enemy meant for evil, God turned around for good. And that was the night I died. And so I can go right into that point if you like. And
let's do it. Let's jump right in. So you had a heart attack, right?
I did. Now, here's the thing about that. Let me set the stage for that, because oftentimes I hear from people, especially, and I look back on it now, and of course I'm going like, kid, if you had been paying attention, that was heart attack given to you on a plate. It was so easy. Anybody would have seen this. But I didn't see it. And I often wonder sometimes, was that just kept from me, maybe? I don't know. And I'll mention why I say that, because there was a lot of stuff that was kept out from knowledge that I had at that time, but not when I came back. I couldn't come back with all this amazing knowledge, but that's later on down. I had I started feeling bad. Now, at this time, you have to understand that I felt I was in great shape. I was very military oriented. I had gone to OCS for the Marine Corps. I was very gung ho. I worked out like crazy. I practiced martial arts for years. I mean, it was that type of approach. And in this, but I went to the gym several times per week, and that sort of thing. From my mind, from my perspective, I was in the greatest shape of my life. And I had no reason to believe that anything would happen. And so I never even considered that. And neither did my wife. At this one time, though, 7 days later, I felt like I was getting the flu. And it came on very strong. And I just started feeling clammy. I was having some difficulty breathing, very kind of that kind of thing. And I was having this pain that was in my hand. It was coming down my arm. Again, all of these classic signs, right? Wayne, completely oblivious. Okay. And so what's happens is, over the course of the day, it starts to get worse and worse. And so much so that in the evening, it was early evening, this pain that starts pulsing down my arm. I'm just like, wow, this is not right. And I tell my wife, I said, baby, I'm I'm not feeling very well. I need to lay down and try to get some rest. And she says, okay, honey, I'll come in there with you in just a minute. And I was like, you don't have to. I'll it, I'll be okay. I just feel so bad that I need to go ahead and lay down early. And she said, well, I want to. And I said, okay. We go, or I go into the room and I get ready for bed and that sort of thing. But it was difficult. And I'm laying down there trying to get comfortable, which I am completely unable to do. She ultimately comes in and she lays down, and I laugh every time, because it's so funny. She had this ability to fall asleep at the drop of a hat. And our daughter could do the same thing. It was like almost like narcolepsy. It's like, you need to go to sleep? Yep, I'm done. And I say that with, kind of cheeky, but it was close to that. She was able to lay down, and within a couple of minutes, lights out for her. She was out, not me. At that time, I was having a really difficult time. I couldn't breathe. I was restless. I was like a pancake flipping back and forth there in the bed. And I thought I was having a concern that I was actually going to disturb her sleep. But so I thought, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to roll on my back. Maybe I'll kind of stretch myself out a little bit, try to get some more air into my lungs and that sort of thing. And right at that moment, I had this seizing pain in the middle of my chest, and completely unexpected, out of the blue. And I describe it as like an elephant just like stomped in the middle of my chest. And it was like that. And that seizing pain was so strong. It just got me. And I just kind of, came up a couple inches off the bed because of that, grabbed my chest, but I couldn't do anything. I was going to try to call out to Denise because, wow, that was something. I needed help, and I knew I needed help, but I couldn't say anything. This pain was so strong, and it had me, the words were actually caught in my throat. I couldn't say anything. And and the pain was so strong, I couldn't move anywhere. It was like, if you try to move, the pain gets worse, right? So you're kind of stuck in this spot. And the realization was that if I don't do something, I can't take this. This is too much for me. And of course, it was too much for anybody, but that's what I'm thinking to myself at the time. Excuse me. And I said, I don't know what to do. Now, remember, I had only been a Christian now by a label for just 1 week, right? So I didn't know any scripture. I didn't know anything. The one thing I did know was Jesus, right? I knew God. And I thought to myself, all right, hey, there's a plan, Wayne, okay? I can call out to God, because I didn't know what else to do. And I knew that if I called out to him, that maybe he could help me, right? So that's what I did. But I couldn't vocalize those words either. All I could do was think in my head, because again, I was just stuck that way. And so I pray, God, and it was a very urgent prayer, obviously. If you don't help me, I don't know what I'm going to do. This pain is too much for me. I can't take it. Please take this pain away. A prayer of desperation. And that's what it was. But about a couple of seconds later, all the pain went away. I was stunned. Pleased, but stunned. I was thinking to myself, now I'm still got my eyes closed because my eyes were clenched shut in the middle of this, right? But now everything's gone. And I'm trying to take stock and really kind of check, are you sure, Wayne? And I did. I noticed, okay, there's no pain running down my arm. No problem breathing at all. No pain at all. In fact, I feel kind of good, you know? And at that moment, as I think to open my eyes. And, I'm going to check out the world. How is everything going? This is great now. Wow, that was tough. But when I opened my eyes, I wasn't in bed anymore. I was actually beside my bed, looking down at my body on the bed. Now, at first, I mean, yeah, that was not what I expected. But then there was this matter-of-fact kind of thought that I had. I knew it was me. And I knew I was dead. And I just kind of said that kind of matter-of-fact. I'm dead. And I said, as a follow-up, and I don't look so good either. So, because that's one thing, and I say it to people all the time. They often think that when you die, suddenly there's this open world of knowledge, and you change into this different person that's all wonderful and great and perfect. But it's really not that. I mean, you're going to be the type of person, the personality, the person you are 30 seconds after death that you were 30 seconds before you died. And so that's for those people, and that's why I think this is kind of a sidebar. When we tell people, look, if you were to die today or right now, would you be ready for that? And I tack this on because I say, you really kind of got to know, because you're going to be that same person the moment death occurs as you are right this moment. So let's see if we can change that before that happens, right? So anyway, I'm looking at that and I'm checking things around. I'm just like, well, I'm kind of noticing things. And I'm noticing that I've got like this superhero vision, right? I can see things and it's dark. I mean, it's the middle of the night. We don't have any night lights or anything on in the room. It's very, very dark. Excuse me. But I'm thinking like, wait a minute, I can see everything. And I can see really well too. And as I'm checking things out, I'm looking at that and just kind of marveling a little bit at this newfound kind of sense in vision that I have. And while I'm doing that, then I hear this voice behind me, and soft and sweet. And I hear this, Wayne. Now, I'm just kind of stop a second and I'm thinking like, did I just hear someone call my name? And so I'm thinking, well, here I'm in this room, it's dark, and maybe I was hearing things, I don't know. But then again, I hear it, and it's a little more urgent, I guess. Wayne, and it's like that. And then I recognize that this voice is coming from behind me. So what I do is I turn around because somebody's calling my name, and as I look, then what happens? So I'm standing beside my bed, right? And so this is on the side of my bed, and several feet and not too far, there's this window that's or this wall that actually goes out to the street from, based on the orientation of our bedroom in the house. So I turn around, we've got this big window there, and I look out this window. There's the street, and there's the curb on the street, and I can see there. And out on the opposite curb of the street is a woman, and she very elegant looking woman, and she's in this cone of light. Now that's very interesting because I'm thinking there's no street lights in this spot, right? So you would naturally think there's a street light navigating is casting some light down. Nope, it's nothing like that. But I'm seeing this cone of light around her as she's just perfectly inside this cone of light. And I see that, and she's sitting there, she's smiling. And I think to myself, not that this is odd, it seems like this is a perfectly normal, natural situation, which I also thought was strange later. But I thought to myself, I know this person. And I didn't know why I knew this person, but inside I knew this person. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, what's her name? Linda. Yeah, her name is Linda. And it's still funny to me today. I have no idea who this Linda is, at least in this life. Now, right then, I did know. And I'm sure that when we're back in glory, I'm going to know who this person is again. But at this moment, that wasn't the point. I just knew who she was. And I am watching her out this window and through the wall because my vision is able to see through things and past things and to focus on things. It could be a long ways away, and you get this laser focus, this eagle eye type vision that you can do. It's amazing. And so I then do something else, which is I didn't think to myself at the time, but it seemed like normal process in this thing. I walk right through this wall, not looking for a door, just like it's not even there, right? And walk right out to the street to where she is. And I walk right out to her, and I she's looking up at me, and I said, hi, it very like, it's good to see you again, Linda. However, I didn't say that, but that was kind of, that hi. And she didn't say anything. There was no small talk. She just looked at me, smiled, and she said, Wayne, there's someone that wants to meet you. And I said, really? Who? And here she is on the curb. I'm looking down at her. Now, what she does is she just looks up like that, right? And just like anybody else, you see somebody do that, what are you going to do? You're going to look up. What are they looking at, right? So that's what I did. And I look up, and up in the sky, I see one thing. It's this pinpoint of light that I think is like a star. And now I didn't have a moment to be able to kind of grasp really what this is. The realization, oh, it looks like a star. But at that particular moment, what ends up happening is I feel these large hands grasp me around my middle section. Now, these hands are huge, and they actually take up the whole middle section. And of course, like everything else, it caught me by surprise. I couldn't see any hands, but I could feel them, and it was quite. I knew exactly what this was, and these hands start to lift me up. Now, just to kind of compare, what is this? What am I thinking? What is happening here? It's just like I would have done with my little girl when I would grab her and pick her up, that sort of thing, as her dad. It's this same type of feeling. I could feel this warmth and comfort in this grasp, which was nice. But it was surprising nonetheless, because I didn't see any hands there. And so it caught me off guard. Well, then what catches me off guard even more is that I'm starting to be lifted up. Now, I'm out in the middle of the street and I'm not expecting this. So I throw my hands out to be able to grasp onto something to steady myself, right? Which was kind of also, it just really, there's nothing there. We're out in the middle of the street. So it was kind of strange. However, as my hands are thrown out like a cat, right? You see how you're going to grab something. I see my left hand. Because it just caught my attention. And I thought, wow, wait a minute. There's this bluish, purplish light that is emanating from my arm and my hand. I hadn't noticed that before, right? And I thought, cool, that's and again, that's the Wayne, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, yeah, man, that's cool. But then, because this vision that I have, not with those glasses like I have now, but this eagle eye supervision I have, my focus is not only drawn to the hand, but I can actually see partially into the hand. It's almost like my skin is semi-transparent, and I can see my veins. They're quite prominent if you look at my hands now, but I'm seeing them, and I can see them in my arm and my hand, and what's going through them is light. It's this light going through them. It's not blood at all. And I was just really stunned by that as well. Wow. That interesting, right? I need to kind of point this out because this may seem strange, and it's just kind of a way that I have to be able to do this. It's just the way we communicate. I am showing you what appears to be disjointed little segments of things. I make an observation, I get information about this, I process it, and that sort of thing, right? But in actuality, everything is going incredibly fast. In fact, it is going so fast that it is almost simultaneously occurring. And so what's happening is I am taking a segment of things that I am realizing. Again, all this stuff is happening so quick, but then I'm having to be able to, just in our linear form of communication, kind of lay that out for you so that you can understand what's actually happening. Otherwise, it's just all this stuff happened and then it didn't. It's that fast. It is incredibly fast. But there was a lot of observation that was taking place. And that is typical for me. I like to observe and to take note of and that sort of thing, right? So that's what I was doing here. At this exact same time, while I'm making this note, I'm also being lifted up. So I'm having to also turn my attention to that. So I am looking and seeing Linda fall away from me, right? But she's really not. It's actually me being lifted up. But the realization didn't happen until after I see this particular scene. And she's looking up at me going away from her. And she's got this really, she's smiling still. And so I then decide, wait a minute, she's looking up. Maybe I should too. And I think I need to know where I'm going, right? Or I would like to. So I look up and I am very quickly, like I say, but with all of this detail, still with these hands grasped around me, excuse me, I'm going up in through the clouds. I'm going up in through the stratosphere, out into space, just like, and it's in what appears to me to be a straight line, out into space and now out into deep space. And while I am watching my head, watching where I'm going, where I'm being lifted up to, this, like a trumpet bell, the funnel part of the bell of a trumpet, opens out in front of me over my head, opens out like that. And it's actually the entrance to a tunnel. And that's the tunnel you were discussing earlier. And that was so, I made no, other than the observation, there was no like emotional connection with it or anything. It's just like, oh, there's a tunnel. But it's dark. Now, there's no, some people have seen lighted tunnels and those types of things, but this was not lit. I was able to see it because of this vision that I have, but it was dark, just like space was. And I notice I'm going up into the tunnel, right? Now, the tunnel, I guess, if I was to look at it, it's, I'm looking at my office room where I'm at right now, and I'm thinking like, okay, about twice the size of this office room. And so I'm guessing about like 30 feet in circumference, maybe a little bit more. And I'm seeing it as I'm going up in it, but it is lined wall to wall, surface to surface with angels. And these angels, and I know that there are folks that have problems with angels that have wings. Well, these angels had wings. Now, they aren't all outstretched and, that sort of thing. They're actually tucked behind them. And these guys, like I said, the whole way lined up down this tunnel. And the that was who they were. They were like these military warring angels. Why were they there? I didn't know. But what was interesting about it, they were very excited to be doing what they were doing. It was like they were on some kind of special mission that or special event that they could be a part of. Now, this I'm actually feeling what they're feeling, and why I don't know, but that's what it was, and they were excited and happy to be there for this. Now, I always explain this like a military wedding where you've got a saber arch. Except that this is a tunnel, and all of the military men are actually all around the tunnel. They are in this amazing, perfectly fit armor, and it was very pretty. It was this kind of this royal blue, like an almost an anodized type of blue, if you understand what I'm talking about there. And it was etched with these very ornate kind of glyphs. I didn't get a chance to be able to look at them closely and identify it, but it was like a insignia or something that it was very, very pretty, very ornate. But it was obvious that when you're in the military, you've got these dress outfits that you wear, like dress blues or something like that, depending upon the military is. And I don't know, I think maybe they were like that. Maybe I'm completely off base, but that's what I'm feeling here. Now I'm going through this tunnel, and it is like that saber arch at a military wedding. Now I want to stop here for just a second, because that's one of the things, and I point this out now. If you look at my ministry site, then one of the things that you will note is that my focus is on the bride of Christ and the pre-tribulation rapture of the bride that I believe is about to take place. And the reason that I connect that with this is I get the same type of wedding procession, that same feeling there. And here is a sample or a taste of what that wedding procession will be like. Because here is, what am I doing? I'm going through the tunnel, and who is waiting at the end for me is the glorious bridegroom, King Jesus. Okay, so I'm going to just leave that as a thought for you for the moment. As I am going through the tunnel, it goes very fast, and going so fast, that's what I'm saying is I'm speeding up. I'm going faster than the speed of light. And it bothered me. I mean, I actually got uncomfortable. Why? Because in my humanness, I know that's a stop limit. You can't go faster than the speed of light, Wayne, so there must be something wrong, right? That's what I'm thinking of myself. But as soon as I have this thought, I start to slow down a little. It's almost as if we want you to be comfortable here. This is not about you being scared or something like that. But I slow down just enough to where I go, oh, okay. I can handle that, right? That's good for me. Let's keep going. Now, it's still incredibly fast, no question. But there was that concern that takes place into my comfort at that particular point. I'm looking forward, and I'm seeing this light, and it's growing in my field of vision. And that point is that I still think it's a star. I've got no reason to think otherwise, right? But I can see now this is a huge, long tunnel. And I end up, I can see, now maybe it's just because of that vision again, I can focus out on where the end of this tunnel is. And I can see that it ends. I can see like this, it has like this window or membrane or something along that lines. It's a barrier of some type that you can sense, although you can see through it. And I can see, excuse me, I don't have any water in front of me, so I do apologize for that.
No worries.
I can see that there is an ending where there's another bell that opens out the other way, right? And this is a funny thing that I actually found this was recent, the last few years actually. I found this mathematical graph in which they were talking about black holes and white holes. And it was a graph of where the event horizon is and where it goes in down to the singularity and then comes out, right? This graph is so funny. It's exactly like what I was looking at because it had this trumpet flared bell on one end and then the other way on the other end. I thought, yeah, that's what I was looking at. That's right. That's right there. So anyway, I'm not saying that's what it was, but I find it awfully interesting that is in fact the case. That is how that looked. So I come up anyway. I'll cut this down so I don't take up too much of your time. But as I come bursting through this other end of this tunnel, and that's the only word that I can use, just like really like birth, when the water breaks and then the baby comes. It's almost like that. I burst out of this other end into this heavenly realm. And even then, because I'm thinking like, just as I'm talking to you right now, I can go through, it's reliving this experience every single time. It's another sidebar, and I can tell you why. So that if you have this question or other people have this question, they ask, how do you remember all of these things? And so that, and how do you, some people had actually said that they didn't believe it was real because I say the same thing every time. And I get your point, but let me address that quickly. This didn't happen in my human brain. I was dead. This was in my spirit. So there is no problem with memory. There is no synapses that have to fire in order for memories to come back. Everything is perfectly recorded in your spirit. That's why you get people when they talk about how, when they've had an afterlife experience, how they have had a life review, right? And how they go through every little thing that happened in their life. Well, how can they do that? Because it's not in their brain. Everything in your spirit is perfectly recorded. Now, I say that because when I came back with those memories that are perfectly recorded. When I don't try to I guess the kind of difference is I can tell you in the afterlife experience, like, for example, about how I looked specifically at my left hand, how specifically I viewed it in that sort of in this high detail. But I couldn't tell you today what did I do in coming in the room? Did I go to the left or did I go to the right? Did I grab something out of you see what I'm saying? Because those particular details were in my human brain at the time, and time does affect that, right? So anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's an aside. I do apologize. But I want you to understand and one of the things that's important to me is to give this detail because I think it's all important. It was shown to me for a reason. And because it was God that did it, I want to make sure that I recount it just like it happened. I don't want to leave out something important. And so it may not appear in the scheme of things that it's really important for me personally, but this message is not for me personally. Yes, I did experience, but Jesus wants me to tell everybody else about it. And so I don't want to miss anything, right? So here I burst through this barrier into this heavenly realm, and I'm still heading towards what I still think is a star. Now I'm actually really close to this star, and the light from this star is so bright. It is, and I say this every time, and it is absolutely true, when I say it was brighter than 10,000 suns. Now, I didn't know that was actually even any kind of a scriptural. There's nothing, whenever I say anything here, if to the extent that there's scriptural foundations, backing, or support, I didn't know any of that at this time. Okay. But that's what I'm thinking. This is brighter than 10,000 suns. And it was. But it was stunningly beautiful to look at. This level of purity and life. I realized that, wait a minute, this light is alive. This is a living light. And the purity and beauty of it was overwhelming. And I'm heading more and more towards it, again, just like a beeline towards it. And then I'm taking into account, and this is strange, I know. I don't know why this is, I don't know how this is the case. When we have two lights here on Earth together, the light blends, right? They overlap each other. You can't see where one ends and another begins. That's not what happened here. This light that I'm seeing from this star had a boundary to it. It's in all of this other light, but I can actually identify a boundary. How? I have no clue, but it was, I think, the point to be able to show me that this light is not a part or of this other light. It is, in fact, separate from it. Okay? And so I then look down as I'm looking into this light, taking in its beauty. And when I say that it's a white light, because people ask, well, it's, how do you describe it? You say whiter than the whitest snow. You couldn't put all of the superlatives together and still come up with an answer, because this level of purity, and we use that term of whiteness to talk about purity, right? That's one of the things that we do. Oh, they're lily white, or that's just pure as the whitest snow. Different things like that. But this was actually the truth of that. This level of whiteness is off the charts white. We do not, in this earthly realm, do not have anything that can compare to it. I'm reminded about the Apostle Paul, whom I believe also, who was stoned in Lystra, and I believe that he also had a afterlife experience. And he was taken up to the third heaven, where it says that he was shown things that it is not lawful to speak of. And now here's one of the things that I say about that. It didn't mean it was against the law for him to speak about it. I believe he was like I was. There are no words. I just don't have the words that I can give you to be able to explain, to describe what you're seeing. It is so far beyond human experience. That's, I believe, what he was saying. And that is so true. When he says we see through a glass darkly, that is also the same thing. Yes, this 3D life that we see is a mere shadow of the reality of the greater reality of heaven. It is far greater, far more expansive than you could possibly imagine. So anyway, sorry about the sidebar, but I just want you to realize that these are the things that are happening. So I'm looking down into this light. And what catches my attention is I make out the form of a man. And it's just like, oh, wow, you see a headlight coming towards you. It's not the first thing. Then you look in the middle of that headlight and there's a guy there, right? Okay. But this is a little bit different in there. It's my focus now is on the center of this light. And in that focus, what comes clearly into focus is this form of a man. Now, I can't make out the detail other than the form, head, arms, legs, and that sort of thing. And the arms were outstretched like they were reaching for me to hug me. And I notice that the light was coming out of him. He wasn't in this light. The light was from him, right? And I thought, at just the oh wow factor at that particular moment, in that instant, I entered this light. I passed this boundary, where this boundary was. I enter into this light. And at that exact same moment, that light starts entering me. It was this strange kind of infusion, if you will. I use it like this, and it was this sudden filling of the very essence of God, his love. The word says God is love, right? I am being filled with that love. And it is beyond belief amazing. Let me just for a moment try to see if I can give a reasonable scope of what this was. I enter the light The light is entering me. I'm being filled. And here's another part of that. I'm not being filled like from the top to the bottom, like when we pour a liquid into something, it starts there, it fills up, fills up. It's all at the same time. But to give some type of visual representation, I use like filling up a water balloon, because the balloon is, it's stretchy and it can expand to fill a lot of this, even more than it started with, right? So the more you can add more, it will increase in size to be able to contain that amount of water that you add to it, right? Well, this is very similar to that same thing. I am being filled with the very essence, the love of God himself. And it's a palpable type of experience. I can feel this. There's an actual pressure to it, which makes sense to me, because when you hug somebody, there's some pressure there, right? Okay. So, and that's what he was doing, reaching out to hug me. Here I am being filled with this. But the pressure of it is so strong, so strong. I'm feeling like I'm getting to that point, like that water balloon is going to burst. Not because it was a bad thing, but because I didn't feel like I could contain all of that. And at that moment, as I'm just like, oh no, okay. Then I feel, wait a minute, just like that uncomfort I felt with the speed earlier, I feel the pressure kind of ease up a little bit. But I had instant recognition. Wait a minute, this is being eased up on me. And I hollered out, no, don't stop. Give me all you got. And at that moment, I hear Jesus chuckle. He just thought that was cute, right? Now, let me stop and be able to tell you, wait a minute, Wayne, you said Jesus. Yes, indeed. When I was instantly being filled, I knew several things that were unquestionably true. I knew that this was Jesus. I knew that this was God. I knew that this was going on in my thoughts at this time. This was the way, the truth, and the life. Now, I've said a couple of times now, I did not know that was Scripture. But I can tell you, it is absolutely true. I can go ahead and interject at this point, because we're going to cover it. When you have people wonder about the Word of God, about the Scripture, about whether it is true, it is absolutely 100% true. It is the truth. It is Jesus in printed form. It is absolutely true. And who it's pointing to is this loving creator God that I am being filled with at that very moment. And I'm telling you, the truth of it cannot be disputed. Now, people can say like, yeah, I don't believe that. It's for all of those people out there that were in a space like where I was, deep into the New Age, any occult practices, stuff like that. I'm telling you, you will see, you will experience the exact same truth. Now, I say it like that because here's the important thing. The truth of Jesus in heaven is also equal to the truth of Jesus without heaven. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is the reality of hell is also absolutely true. And why is that important? Because he didn't create it for people. When I was deep into the New Age, that was one of the things that the enemy had a hold on me about. And that is, I didn't believe in the devil. And I'll tell you what, I was thinking, how silly is that, right? But I'll tell you what, that is the number one. Do you think for a minute, if there was a real devil and he wanted to get a hold of you, all he has to do is make you not believe that he exists? That's the easiest way for him to have a complete, solid, iron grip hold on you. And that's exactly what the case is. He doesn't want you to know that he exists because he doesn't also want you to know about Jesus and what he did to destroy the works of the devil. Anyway, again, another aside. I am filled with this love, and again, like the shadow, there is truly no real way to express the true reality of the love of God. And that is because in this earthly fallen reality that we are in, it is just not possible. That's why faith exists, right? That's why faith exists, because we've got to put faith that that is true. And otherwise, there's just not going to be, that's not going to be an experience that you're going to have. You have to believe it. You have to have faith in it. You have to believe that what Jesus said about it is absolutely true. But I'm in an effort to give a small little sample of what this is like. If you are able to create, and I hope that you have experienced some level of earthly love in your life, whether that be with a spouse or with children or with family members or with friends or that type of thing. If you're able to take those experiences, wrap them all together like it was a diamond, with each of these relationships being a facet of that diamond, and you were to increase this and press them all together into one, and then multiply that full life experience by 1,000,000,000 with a B, that would only be one drop. God's love is infinite. It's an infinite ocean of that. He can and does make that love, that infinite love, available to everyone. And I'll tell you what, just as a personal aside for me, I want that. I've tasted it and I want that. And I can tell you, so will everyone else. If you ever get a chance to taste that yourself, fine. But if you don't, I'm hoping that what I'm saying can make you desire that, because there is nothing in all of creation, anything like it. So I am just marveling in this. And then I am with these truths, these absolute, unquestionable truths that are coming to me. I start asking all of these questions. Wow, wait a minute. Okay, I had been spending my whole life trying to and wondering about who God was, the things about him, that sort of thing. Now I've got that chance to do it, right? So I start just like exploding with questions. And he starts answering every single one of them. He had no problem with them at all. And the way that these questions are answered, again, is not the way that we could do it here on earth. Just like I'm doing with you now, I have to give you this linear word after word type of thing that's into sentences, that are into paragraphs, and that sort of thing. It's this linear building upon precept, concept, that sort of thing. We have this layer of communication, and we can only deal with effectively one thought at a time, right? That's not the way it works in the afterlife. In this afterlife, when you have a question, Jesus is able to fully answer the question. Now, what I mean by that is, what is fully answered, Wayne? Okay, I get it. Well, Jesus has already thought about every tangential issue, every related question, everything that you can do. So when we have a conversation with someone, we might ask a question, and then we might get a response back. Then we say, well, what about X, or what about Y? How does that interrelate? You get me, until you have this full conversation, and that's how it works. Excuse me. But that's not what happens here. What happens here is he's already thought about, he already knows what every particular tangential point is. And he answers you with a complete volume answer to your question. And so that when he gives it to you, when you have that answer, there's nothing left to ask about it. He's giving you the whole thing immediately, in an instant. You get this answer. Well, I'm asking questions like rapid fire, and he is answering every single one of them, to the point where I say that I am actually receiving multiple libraries that you could fill with the volumes that answer the questions that I'm asking. And so why that's important is because you're thinking, like, great. Oh, that's wonderful, Wayne. So what about that? Remember when I said initially that I was not allowed to come back with everything. Interesting. And so I thought about that a number of times. I've asked the Lord about that. Why not? I would love to know all that you had told. You didn't have a problem telling me then. Why not now? Well, I've realized that there's a couple of reasons why. One reason, which is the basic reason, human brain couldn't hold all of that. It's not possible for the human brain to retain all of that I had there. Your spirit can, but the human brain can't. Okay, it's limited. It can only hold so much. But then there's another part to that too. If he answered everything, then how could I grow in intimacy towards him when I'm back here? Right? How do we get intimate with Jesus? Through his word, right? And that there's this growth. An intimate relationship takes time, right? It's a process. And he wanted to allow me that process. He wanted me to desire that level of intimacy, and I do. I have since then. I continue to now. Holy Spirit's leading has pointed me in the right direction. And that building is where that intimacy takes place. That's the short answer that I will give to you as it relates to that. So I'm asking him, and I'm all of these questions and everything, but then something happens. I stop to think, wait a minute. So all of these things about you are true. And does that mean that everything that's written about you in the Bible, or everything written about you is true? I said, that means that everything written about the cross, that's also true? And this is a big point for me. In that moment, I went from where I was, and I was transported through time back on earth, directly right in front of the cross at the very moment he was being crucified. Whoa, whoa. And I'm sitting there. Now, there's lots of little things. Sometimes you will see that they will show that he's like way up on this cross, like he's way up in the air. He wasn't really high up in the air at all. He was just a little bit up off the ground where his feet were, and he wasn't limply hanging off of this cross either. His arms were stretched out. And then he's nailed there, and these things are coming through his wrists right there at his hands. And I know why now, because the level of pain that would inflict on him from using that kind of a lever, his shoulders, and there at his wrist, it's being pulled out. It's and the nerve that goes through the wrist there. I'm telling you, one of the things that people don't really understand is the sheer torture that he went through on this cross and previous to the cross. It's stunning. It's hard to believe. When I was looking at him on the cross, it's hard to believe that you could even like recognize him. He was really in bad shape. It isn't like some little tiny crown of thorns. It's this whole head thing of crowns that they put like almost like a helmet type of thing of crowns that are crushed on his head. And he's dirty and dusty and bloody, and it was a big mess. But as I'm looking at him on the cross, I can hear his thoughts. And this is so wild to me, and it gets me every time. And I can't not change it, so forgive me. His thoughts were about me. And me, right there, his thoughts were about me. And I knew, Vladimir, this is crushing to me, so I'm sorry, that if I was the only person in all of creation that ever would have said yes to him, he would have gone to that cross. He would be right where he is in front of me at that moment, just for me. Just for me. And I knew it was the truth. See, that's the thing about it. It was absolutely true. He wants an intimate relationship with each person so badly. And his love is so deep. And his desire for you is so strong that he would do that just for you. And just for me, and the type of person that I knew that I was, and oh my goodness, he would do that for me. Yes, yes, he did. He absolutely did. And I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. And it was absolutely true. There's no way that I will ever deny that. And I'm wanting everyone to know we have some of our Catholic brothers and sisters, and I want to answer them. There's those people. I'm not picking on them, but I'm using it as an example, that want to use a separate mediator to be able to go to Jesus because, he might be busy, that he's got a lot of Jesus stuff to do. And so if you could give him a message for me, that sort of thing. And if he gets a chance to think about me like the thief on the cross, I would appreciate it. No, ladies and gentlemen. He loves you with that level of love. And the interesting thing about it is where it has nothing to do with whether or not he is focused on one person over another person or something like that. God is infinite, and he can love you infinitely just like he can love the next person infinitely. He can spend infinite amount of time with you as he can spend an infinite amount of time with me, and he loses nothing. He wants all of you, and he will give you all of him. It's so amazing. And then I'm sorry, that will always and forever, that will affect me so much, and it's so true. And at that moment, I come back into with Jesus. And again, I start with more and more questions. Wow. I mean, he opened up, as it were, Pandora's box. I'm going to ask, whoa, so amazing, more questions. And he chuckled again. He thought that was just so cute. He liked answering the questions, though. He didn't have a problem with it at all. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed just the amazement and the wonder and all of that. And it was all directed at him. And while I was there, then the realization also came to me, Vladimir. I wasn't just there with Jesus. I was there with the Father as well. Now, this is very interesting. And again, I could not see, even with these spiritual eyes, I couldn't see a form for the Father. But I knew he was there. I knew where he was. I could interact with him. He could talk with me. I could talk with him. Everything was going on. It's just the only thing is, which was strange, or it seemed to me strange at that moment, is I couldn't see a physical form for him. Even though I knew it, I could point to you right there, right? Okay. And I I was just noticing that. And at that same time, it's soon after this, because in noticing that, I'm noticing the environment and all of this stuff, and I'm feeling like I'm home. This feels like home to me. It feels so wonderfully good. And I ask, I'm thinking like, wow, but I have this thought way back, way in the back. Can I stay in this place? Is this is long term, right? Okay. And I then vocalize this out. Can I stay? And both Jesus and the Father, in perfect unison, we know because the Father and Him are one. So that's what's happening. They both, at the exact same moment, just say one simple word: no. Excuse me. Now, that no was not mean. It was a very loving no, but it was a firm no. But the voice of the Father, oh my goodness, it could split rocks. The power of it shook the very core of my being. It was so incredibly powerful. And it made me, of course, after the fact, I didn't know that then, but I was thinking about the people standing at the base of the mountain, to hear God. And they're thinking like, whoa, okay, no, too much. You talk to Moses, okay? He keeps talking to us, we're going to die. I get it. I get it now. So much power. But love. It was power in love. That's what was so amazing about it. It was not a mean no. No, it was nothing like that. It was just no. But in that simple no, it could, rip stars apart. It was just that powerful. But at that moment, I also knew it was absolutely true. I was not going to be able to stay. And my heart is already hurting from that standpoint. I'm like, I'm already homesick and I haven't even left yet, right? That's really what it is. And now I can tell you, I have been so homesick ever since. I am so ready for Jesus to open up that sky and call up his bride. I'm so ready for that. But at that point, I start to pull away out of the light. It's gentle, right? It's just like, come on now, come on, my. And so I'm going backwards. Now I'm going exactly the same way that I came in. And so my feet are going down where I came in head first. And I'm heading back towards that open bell space. And I'm being pulled out of this light. And there, even at that, and I've never really said this before, but you can feel it. There's this almost this disconnection that takes place that you just don't want to have happen, right? You're like, oh no. You feel that something that was so perfect fitting for you was being removed. Like you've got this wonderful I don't know, piece of clothing, this garment that you've had, and it fits perfectly, and you've got to let the tailor have it to make a couple of adjustments, right? And you're going like, I don't know, but that's okay. We'll take care of it, right? That's kind of the feeling. That's kind of where I was going with that. But I'm going back and I'm going around. Now, what I do is just like a little child, because I'm going backwards, I'm looking over my shoulder. And so I kind of just force myself to roll over just like a little child into a position like I was on a sled, right? Where I'm going feet first down that way. I enter back into the tunnel. And what was so interesting about that, all of the angels are still there. And now I'm back in space again. All the angels are still there. And I shouldn't be surprised because if you think about it, the speed in which all of this is taking place, there really wasn't a whole lot of time that took place from their standpoint, right? So they're still there and they're still excited and happy and talking to each other and that kind of thing, right? And I'm going back, but it's all feet first and all the way back. And I'm just like, oh. And I come out the other side. Now, there's no bursting out of that side, right? It's just almost like coming out of a culvert. It just come out. It plops me out in the middle of deep space. But I don't slow down. I'm going and I kind of come up partially, right, to where I'm almost erect, but I'm still going very, very quickly. And planets, our solar system, the outer planets are going by and I'm headed towards Earth. And then there's a moment where Earth is right in front of me. And this picture is emblazoned in my mind because I'm seeing Earth without glasses, without dust, without anything, out in space in this beautiful, picturesque view, something that I would have just, I never would have believed I would have been able to do, but I was so glad that I was. And the Earth was beautiful. It really was. The stunning beauty of our planet is just, some people just do not stop to think about that, but it really, really is. What an amazing creation that the good Lord made for us here, right? So I'm coming back in through the cloud layers, everything else going in the same place, just like it came out. And as I'm coming in over Texas in the place there in the Dallas area where I lived at that time, and I'm coming in and I see Linda. She's still there on the curb. She's still looking up. But again, like I said, all of this happened so fast. From her standpoint, probably just took a split instant of time. But she's looking up at me. But this time I'm not coming down right beside her, but I'm coming in like a meteor. It's that fast, but I'm coming in over our house. And I come in through the roof. And I talk about, again, it's all of these details that I have. The very grain on the shingles, the pink insulation inside the attic space, the structure, the popcorn ceiling as I'm coming through, because I'm at eye level. I see all of this. I capture all of that detail, no matter how fast I'm coming in, like blazing fast. And I'm over the top of my body. And my feet go in here into my chest first. That's where I enter from, feet first. And it's almost like my body kind of turns around to fit it like I'm fitting a glove on my hand. Again, happening so fast, it's right. And at the moment that my spirit locks in my body, there's this huge rebound. It's almost like I impact it. And this rebound catapults my physical body now over the end of my bed out into the middle of our bedroom onto the floor, face down, whop, with a big thud right on my chest, right? Interesting, right? Interesting. That's that big cardiac thump. Get that heart functioning again, I guess. But that's what happened. Didn't hit anything else, just that spot. But out in the middle of our floor, took everything out. Boom, bam. And that's what woke Denise up. Surprise. Okay. So she's like with a start, but it's still dark, right? And she can't see. And I'm already immediately back in pain. Now, this is a different pain. It's like when you're recovering from an injury and you get that burn, that thing. It's not the same as the initial injury, but it's still bad. And I'm not able to talk. I mean, it's not because of the inability. It's my mouth and throat is dry. I'm not able to, I just don't have the strength yet to be able to do that. So I'm thinking quickly, how do I let Denise know that this is me out here, right? And so I'm crawling around to turn myself around on the floor. And I think to myself, if I just reach up onto the bed, because I'm not going to be able to stand up and get there, but I'm thinking I could reach up and grab her foot to catch her attention. I didn't pre-think that because I didn't think about the fact that it would probably scare the living daylights out of her, which it did. But I couldn't think of anything else to do at that moment. So I crawl over the edge of the bed and I reach up and over and I grab a hold of her foot. And of course, as you might expect, she lets out this shocking, okay. And then she immediately recognizes, Wayne? And I've got one thing that I need to tell her. One thing, not that, I'm not why I'm on the floor, not why I'm at the end of the bed, not what's happened, anything like that. There's one most important thing that I need to tell you, and I'm going to use every amount of strength that I have in me to get it out to you. And that is this. I just met God. And now, of course, her response is, what? Now, in my condition, I'm thinking to myself, did she not understand what I just said? Maybe I didn't clearly articulate what I was trying to say. So I'm going like, okay. I try to get everything back into my, here, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And I get it out a second time. I just met God. And then I collapsed on the floor. And so she immediately, of course, jumps up out of bed, runs around to the end and sits down beside me. She's not knowing what's going on and everything else. But I end up, of course, ultimately telling her everything. She's the very first person that I witnessed to about that. And I have never, Vladimir, I have never stopped witnessing to people about that since that very moment.
Wow. I'm curious, what was her reaction when you told her all that?
When I told her this, she believed every word. She was enthralled. Now, it took me a while to try to get things. I was laying down on the floor. I couldn't get up. I couldn't move. Couldn't sit in a chair. I couldn't do anything. But as I'm trying to get some strength, she's on her knees right beside me as I'm telling her. And she was just like a little child, just amazed at seeing something. And she believed every bit of it. But then she said, Wayne, I think you had a heart attack. and we need to get you to the hospital right now. Now, I did, of course, go, and I've got this whole other segment that I talk about what happened, how they verified that I had the heart attack and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And all the people that I witnessed to as a result. But right at that moment, she said, what? I said, no, baby, I don't have the strength. Let me try to get a couple of hours of rest, and then we can go then at that point. Now at this stage, because I'm guessing I was gone for at least, I tried to evaluate. It was probably around 4 hours that I was actually dead. Okay.
Wow. 4 hours in
And
heaven.
yes. And so, because the time that I'm coming in, this is when I come back. Now, remember, I went to bed early. Okay. So, and when I say early, we're talking about 7 o'clock in the evening. I was feeling that bad. Here at this point, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. And when I said 2 hours, that was going to be 6 o'clock when the clinic might be available to have some people there. It's right by the hospital that our doctor was at. So anyway, that's so I'm telling her that, let me get a couple of hours rest and then I'll go. I promise you. And she said, but Wayne, what if you have another heart attack and you die and you don't come back this time? And I just looked at her lovingly and I said, but baby, Jesus is not going to send me back just to have me die again. And she just thought about it a moment and she said, okay, it was kind of like, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. And I really meant that. Surely he had a reason for sending me back. He told me there that I couldn't stay, so I knew that I was coming back. And so anyway, that's where that came from and how that transpired.
Well, I'm curious after that experience, when you experience something that out of this world, how do you move forward? A lot of times people become like almost like Bible thumpers, right? They want everybody to hear it. They want everyone to go to heaven. And there's this balance almost to be had, right? But I'm curious, did you struggle with that? How do you move forward after experiencing something like that?
Well, and you're right, there is that. But the one thing that I thought about is because initially I had to figure out, why was I being sent back? What is the reason for it? There was a reason, and I knew that was the case. And what I had ultimately come to the conclusion was that he knew I would tell people. There was not any question, because from the moment I came back, this mouth has not shut up, despite what some people have wanted. So, but it's that important. It's his message, and he was giving me something he wanted me to do with it. And that was to tell people. I had to tell people. And it's not just that. It's also for me to learn about him, to love other people, to recognize the truth, to be able to. Now, as far as a Bible thumper, okay, there is some truth to that as well, but different in that the first thing I needed to do, and the first thing I wanted to do, is I sat down and I read the Bible cover to cover. I was voracious about it. Page. Wayne, you need to eat. Just a minute. Page. It was that. I was just voracious. It was like I was a starving man that was in front of this great feast. I wanted everything here, right? I wanted to know about it. And then what's interesting is, because I knew it was because he was coming back soon. And so I needed to be able to get that out. And I would see things about all of these things popping out. The Holy Spirit was just like, you see that one? Yes. Yeah. Mark that. You see that? Yeah. Yeah. I got it. And all of these different typologies about the rapture of the bride and those types of things, the differences in groups, the where the differences in people are and where they're not, those types of things. So that's where all that came from. And I I knew that what I wanted to be able to do is I wanted to be able to honor Jesus. That was the important thing. And that meant not just telling people, that also meant honoring my wife, my children, being able to set an example as a leader of the family, to be able for other people to see, you know, I want what they have. I and what is the one thing that connects them? It's Jesus. That's what connects them. So that plays into it as well. And then ultimately, that's what I'm saying. It right up to the day, and that meant that way up until the day she actually died in my arms.
Mm.
And we had been married for 26 years. It was completely unexpected, but the very last words she got to say to me was that I love you. Those were the very last words she got to say to me.
Ah,
I'm
chills.
so pleased, and it fits so well into Jesus. What is the very last words he says to us? I love you, right? I go away to prepare a place for you. And if I go away, I will come back again to receive you unto myself, that where I am, you may be also. I'm just, that is what I'm focused on.
Well, and how awesome is that your wife got to hear your experience? And I can only imagine that moment, like the expectancy when she knows she's going to transition. I recently just lost a friend as well. And I always think about that first moments in
Yeah.
eternity. Can you imagine?
We talked about that actually a lot. She would tell me how she was jealous about that, and but I'll tell you, and I tell other people too. So I know people probably call you it's Vladimir, but it's Vladimir, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. That's there you go. Yeah, you're
okay.
saying it
So
right.
well, good, you would think, and so uh, it is one of those things that we discussed. She really was jealous of that, and she asked me about it all the time. She was really so interested about it. She would tell others, so she became a witness as well. But honestly, when I think to myself, if I had Jesus tell me, okay, Wayne, you have been asking all your life to meet God. Okay, we're going to answer that. Now here's the catch. You got to die first. And I'd be going, um, okay. I don't know if I would have been so willing. I was like, no, 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 trust me. It's all going to be okay. Right. And so I think he probably knew that. And it's one of the reasons why he might have actually, or maybe the enemy as well, because remember, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But he came that we might have life, and that more abundantly. He is the very author of life. So what I think is that the devil, he had that hold, and he's going like, no, we're going to take him. Jesus said, hands off the man. Is say he belongs to me now. And so I really think that is what we were dealing with. But yeah, I'm thinking like if I might have been wondering if I would have been so willing to do that. But I'll tell you what, after the fact, I wouldn't change a thing.
Wayne, I got to ask, because I know it's early in the morning for you. For those of you watching, listening, Wayne is in Australia. So it's 5:14 here. It's, I don't know, maybe like 6 or something a.m. Where you are.
It's a quarter after 7 in the morning now.
Oh my
We've
goodness.
had a
Well, before we move on to more questions, I just want to make sure, are you on a time crunch? Do you need to get going anytime soon?
no. I can give you what you need, and I'm happy to do this. We had kind of a a technical issue getting started, so
Yeah.
if we need
That's
to,
always expected, when I've noticed that, especially the more powerful the testimony, more technical issues pop in. But I have to ask you this question, because I know people in the comments will be asking, like, I know you mentioned that there were a lot of questions and answers that you've experienced that were taken away from you, but are there any questions that you asked that that you were able to keep the answers for yourself? Anything that you can share about that?
One of the things that he came, the focus of the answers to questions was that he was coming back for a bride and that it was happening soon. I need to get into his word to find out how that works. He will show me, right? That's what the deal was. Now, obviously, there was just tons, everything from philosophy to science, mathematics, everything, because I'm kind of a gearhead, if you want to think about it, a engineer, lawyer, all of that kind of stuff. So that was always just knowledge, not for the sake of knowledge, but to understand how life works. That just the mechanisms of life and the creation that we have around us, the one that God made for us.
Another thing, I keep thinking about Linda, and you saw her in the beginning, you saw her at the end. And
Yeah.
if you had to take a wild guess, Wayne, who do you think that was?
You know what? I'm wondering, I believe it's probably a family member somewhere. That's what I've thought. Now, I don't know specifically. I will know. I know that. But I know that wasn't the point. I think that the point for Linda is the one thing she did, and that was point me towards Jesus. She had the privilege of doing that thing, and watch me the whole time. So she was there throughout the whole thing. So she watched me go. She watched me return, and so. But I really, really don't know. What I don't want to do is I don't want to detract. And that was always the main focus. The message is Jesus. All of it is about Jesus. And so, and what I thought about is, wait a minute, as I look back on it, he wanted to meet me, right? It wasn't me, I'm going to go to him, like I could do that, right? The pride and everything. But no, there's someone that wants to meet you. Didn't tell me who, and that's why I'm saying who. Just take a look, okay? That's what happens, right? And so that is what I would say about that.
And speaking of Jesus, I'm curious. So I have every time I give away some of like a free PDF or some kind of downloadable thing, I ask people one question, and the question is like, what's the one thing that you're struggling with right now? And so they enter their first name, last name, email, and they answer that question. And so I have an email list nearing 19,000. And so that's 19,000 responses. And one most popular response that people enter for what is the one thing that they're struggling with is intimate relationship with Jesus. Just here, relationship with Jesus. And man, that breaks my heart. And so I'm curious, for those that are watching, listening, that, they're listening to your experience like, man, Wayne, I'm so lucky. You're so lucky. I want to experience the same thing. But practically speaking, every single day, what are like one, two, three things people can do every single day that can get them closer to that intimate relationship with Jesus?
One is, and this is what I say in a lot of my messages, the time now is for the lethargy to be left aside and for people to wake up. Now, what I mean by that is that people need to realize that there's a time limit, not only on our lives, but there's also a time limit on God's plan that He has here. So we want to try to maximize as much as possible, one, being awake. And when I say that, I mean spiritually awake. The idea is it's so easy, especially in today's world, to be distracted, to let the worries of this world, as Jesus said, to just kind of consume us. But that is completely turned on its head. What we want to do, and here's one of the things I would say, let's look at this practically. Practically speaking, you are going to make time for someone you love. Okay? And I think probably one of the first things that we have to look at, you're going to make time for Jesus if you love Jesus. Remember, He said that the very first and greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, depending upon which verse you're looking at there. And why is that? I mean, it's because He loves you like that. That's one of the saying that there's this mutual affection that He has. He loves you so much, He was willing to do this for you. And a lot of times we get detached from that. It seems like so far away from us, almost surreal, if you will. But when you realize, just like I was saying, remember I said that I heard the voice of God tell me when I was in a lost state that Denise was going to be my wife. And I knew it was true, right? And it was absolutely true. What did that tell me? That even while I was lost, God Himself was watching over me just as He's watching over you, that He is trying to get you to turn to Him because He loves you that much. So what do? What's the easiest thing to be able to do? We want to be awake to that knowledge. Then two, we want to pray. Now people, a lot of times they go, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that, take a pray thing. Okay. When I say pray, what I do, I spend, and look at this how you will, just listen to me for a minute. I spend my entire day in communication with Jesus. I do it all day because I recognize He's here with me. I don't have to find a different space and go in there. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, your prayer closet or something like that. But what I mean is, when you come to the realization that He is always with you, He's always with you. There is not a thought or an event or a thing that you do that He does not see, is not aware of, and wants to be a part of. And when you do that, I talk to Him just like I would talk to someone that I love, daily, ongoing, in everything. Jesus, this just came to me. Look, I just fell flat on my face. I knew it. I did it. I'm so sorry, Jesus. Please wash my feet. Clean me from this sin. Keep me close to you. Lord, show me how to be able to overcome this part or that particular thing. Look, I'm not trying to present myself as some kind of great saint. No, I am just, I'm worse than a lot of other people. I fight with things daily, daily, daily. And that's the deal. Here's the one thing I would say to people. If you're not fighting with it, then I would be concerned. Okay? Because the enemy only comes against you when he knows you are winning. He knows when he can lose you, right? And so that's very important. So what are we told? Count it all joy. Count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, those kinds of things. For it's the testing of your faith. That's exactly right. Count it joy. The enemy is trying to draw you. Oh, you don't need that Jesus. Oh, yes, you do. And no person in all of creation could love you more. So next, after that, start your day with Jesus. Start your day with Jesus, okay? One of the things that I do, it's so easy, it's going like, oh, I can't do anything unless I have a cup of coffee first, and then I got to get this done, and then, okay, I'll set up my computer, and, you know, that sort of thing, right? Get ready for work. I got to set up, you know. No, friends. No, friends. First thing to do, always put God first. It takes 30 days to create a habit. 30 days. Do this for 30 days. Wake up, and the first thing that you do is give the first 15 minutes to God. I wake up and I say 15 minutes, obviously all day, but that's what I'm saying. This focused time in the morning is so important because you put God first. You let Holy Spirit get in a position of leading you. The first thing that I do is I thank the Lord for the new day, right? Thankfulness, and a lot of people don't realize how important thankfulness is. There is so much more. I think to myself, there is so much more I should be thankful for that I just miss, right? That we take for granted, but take nothing for granted. He gives you so much a lot of times and we don't realize it. So acknowledge that first thing in the morning, and then pray that he leads your steps, and pray that he opens your heart, your mind, your eyes to hearing and receiving what he has for you, right? And that does not in any way take away from your life. It adds immensely to it. There are a lot of families that, well, let me take this back. Just like using the example of a husband and a wife, right? With Jesus as the head, just assume that you have someone that Jesus, as a human being or as a family member, is living in your house with you. You're constantly interacting with them. You're asking, what if it was a cherished father or mother, grandparent, something like that, someone that you put trust in, and you go to them and you ask them questions and you confide in them and that sort of thing. That's all wonderful, but that's only a shadow of the one you really want to confide in, and that's Jesus. And he wants that. He enjoys that interaction. He looks forward to it. So then next, that's what I'm saying. The word, okay, that don't leave it like, oh, so dry. It goes like, so-and-so begat so-and-so. I want to do that, okay? I get it. But it is reflective on how you look at it. And this, in one of the latest messages I did, and I've discussed this several times, and this is what's important. You get people that talk about, well, you need to be able to look at 20 to 30% of the Bible is prophetic, right? And we need to look at the end times, so we'll look at these specific prophecies, right? Have you heard that?
Yeah, something
My
like that.
answer to that is no. That is absolutely wrong. The word is 100% prophetic. And here is where I will give that to you. In the names, you're going like, well, so-and-so begat so-and-so, and so-and-so begat so-and-so. You look at those first 10 names, and there is a message from God saying that the judgment is coming, and what happens with that, right? The very names mean something, and he did that for a reason. You look at the very first word of the Bible, Bereshit, in Hebrew, that we translate in the beginning. And I said, and you look at the Proto-Hebrew that was used to write that book of Genesis, and you see in that very first word, it shows you about the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. Look at it. Be able to see there's multiple levels at all. My point being is there's nothing dry there. If you understand that all of it is prophetic and that word can be opened up to you, and how many times, Vladimir, how many times have you read a specific passage? Hundreds of times. You look at it and you're like, okay, yeah, I know that passage. Yeah. But then Holy Spirit comes and opens up your eyes and you go, what, what, right?
All the time. Yeah, it's interesting how it hits you different stages in life. Like when I read one verse when I was younger versus when I was in the thick of it with all the struggles and everything, it totally spoke differently, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it does. And that it adds to you, it strengthens you. And when those things happen, I would contend that when you see those things occur, it makes you want to look more. You're going like, wait a minute, what else can I find out? What else can I do with that with, right? And so that's what I would say with that.
Something else you mentioned in the beginning, you said a prayer of desperation. It seems like I'm starting to see a pattern. A lot of people that I interviewed, I had to speak to, it seems like the last prayer they prayed was a prayer of desperation. There's something about when your back is against the wall, when you come to the end of you. What do you make of that?
Well, I agree with you, especially as it relates to near-death experiences, afterlife testimonies, because in a lot of instances, Jesus says that all who call on his name will be saved. Now, what we find, I think, and you've probably seen in a lot of different instances, a lot of times people do not call out on Jesus unless and until they are at the very bottom going down for the third time.
Yes.
He does not want you to get there. But the interesting thing is sometimes it takes us hard-headed people to get to that point before we do call out on him. And that's when we realize I've got nothing left. There's nothing to lose here. I'm going to call out on him. But when they do, he answers just like he says he will. And what I would say in response to that is that we're not talking about waiting till you get to that point. Because not only will he answer you, absolutely, no question. But you don't have to get there because he'll answer you in what you consider the most mundane things. He wants to be a part of your life. He wants to share these things with you. The little things, the annoying things, the happy things, the joyous things. He wants to be so wrapped up with you that you want to share that to them. You want to come in and you go like, Jesus, man, you saw what happened today. This was so amazing. I appreciate you, Holy Spirit, so much for bringing me to this. I was able to, you get the idea. Yeah. He wants to do that. And the closer you get, the more he gives you. Remember in Matthew, he says to him who much is given, much is required, but he also says that to him who has, more will be given. And so that's one of the things that, look at it from this standpoint. The more he gives you of himself, the more you want, and the more you want, the more he gives. What is that? It says that when we pray in line with his will, he will give us the desires of our heart. When that desire is him, oh yes, he will give it to you in spades. It's amazing how he will do that.
Well, Wayne, I just realized you shared all of that. It took, oh my gosh, you've been so generous with your time, by the way. It's been over 2 hours. You didn't even have a cup of coffee.
Not yet.
Not yet. But you went above and beyond, and you shared so much good. I hope everyone was taking notes. But in closing, for everyone watching and listening, people that want to get to know you more, maybe get in touch with you, maybe get into your world, what's the easiest way for them to do that?
Well, there's a couple of ways to do that. I have a YouTube channel. It's called We Are the Overcomers. And I have hundreds of teachings that are on that channel. Great. If you want to contact me via email, and like you, I get lots and lots of them, so it's tough. I like to be able to respond to comments on the messages on the channel, and I also respond personally to email, and my email address is Wayne Fowler NDE @gmail.com. Wayne Fowler, FOWLER, NDE for near death experience. Wayne Fowler NDE @gmail.com. And I will, I'll make sure that I do something. Time is short, but if you have questions, please, and I can help you. I will do all I can.
Well, Wayne, thank you so much. Really appreciate you going above and beyond, taking all the time away from the sleep. You could have slept in extra, but you took all that time away to hang out with me, and that means so much to me. So thank you so much, Wayne. We'll stay in touch. Sounds good?
Sounds great. God bless. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. If today's episode spoke to you, share with someone who needs to hear it. And if you had a supernatural encounter of your own, I'd love to hear it. Just go to godsvoicetoday.com/call to schedule your call. And I'll see you in the next episode. It should be coming up right here on the screen.